Same thing. Education was also a priority for my father. Dad and Mom didn't come from very educated backgrounds, but they always made sure that education was top priority. And this isn't really a funny story, but when I was in 7th grade, one day I came home one semester with 3 A's, 1 in social studies, which was pretty good, 1 in gym and 1 in music, 3 C's and 1 D+ in Spanish. And Dad didn't talk to me for like 3 or 4 straight days. The only time he did anything harsh, but he really set the message that education was important. So, Dad, thank you for that. And Eric is now continuing that message by going to the best college in the country in a couple of weeks. Dad is also very focused on money. And again, that might not sound like a good thing in the age of Obama. I'm sorry, Russ.
I forgive you.
That's okay, thank you. Dad is obviously a little obsessed with the stock market, and this certainly has influenced mainly this son, this one a little bit. Lynn, I'm not sure about you. He always gave me great investment advice. I remember about 10 years ago when he said, Don, you got to buy this stock WorldCom. There's this guy, Bernie Ebbers. He's a genius. He's bringing real shareholder value. Bernie, he's a great guy. Thanks for not telling me to invest in that other guy named Bernie, Dad.
Yeah, you like
that. Another thing about Dad, and this isn't a funny thing, but he's just a modest guy. He's not this guy who tells a lot of stories about himself. When he meets someone new, he always asks a lot of questions. And that's a great characteristic, and hopefully I try to follow that as well. I mean, I'm telling stories now, but about somebody else. Hopefully my kids will follow the same thing. And he's a loving guy too. I mean, he's got kind of this waspy demeanor, even though he's a Jewish guy. It doesn't, he's not a big hugger like Al Gore. Sorry, Russ. You're my prop out there for all my liberal jokes. And I know Lynn will cringe, but you know what? I'm good with it. I'm good with the lack of hugging. We see enough men hugging on reality shows these days. When Dad was small, though, he did some affectionate stuff. He used to always pat me on the head like this. He'd call me Louie. That's my middle name is Louis. He'd pat me on the head, and he'd say, Don, I won't stop until you say bow wow. And I always thought that was pretty cute. But when I was writing the speech, it sort of sounded to be like something that Michael Jackson might have done to Blanket. But in all seriousness, he always took a ton of time with me when I was young. He did math problems with me when I was 4 or 5 years old. He always did these little baseball quizzes with me when I was like 10. Dad, give me a baseball quiz. He'd ask me these crazy questions about Tris Speaker and Zach Weed, and I really loved that. And he played a lot of catch with me as well. And then when I got older, you ended up working that second shift, and you'd get home at like 12:30, and you and I would hang out. This is when I was in college. I'd be out with friends or something. I always looked forward to that. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. And even now, like clockwork, his weekly call comes in, 10 o'clock my time. And we usually don't get to the phone because we're busy putting the kids to bed. He always calls at the same time, and I don't tell him. The message is always the same. Don, it's your dad. It's 9 o'clock Chicago time. Give us a jingle. But I do always look forward to talking to you, Dad. And you know what I hope? I hope my kids feel the same way about me when I'm 80 years old. And I just want to wish you a happy 80th. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Ben, say it again.
Great sentiment.
What else do you want to say about Zadie?
And it's really, really nice.
My cigarettes and
I don't remember that.
I love it.
I don't remember that.
You're smoking 4 packs of cigarettes today.
I was the one that smoked 4 packs.
Pack and a half.
Okay.
Pack and a half a day.
Okay.
Okay, Liz
up.
For the second half.
Here, here.
Okay, Tyler.
I also want to thank everyone for coming, and also for, I was the one that instigated this whole thing,
Yes,
as John
you did.
just said, in terms of like having people say things, and I really appreciate the fact that a lot of you I know a lot of you did a lot of effort into writing something about my dad. I'll try to enunciate as much as possible because I know that a lot of people in this room can't hear too well. So one of the things that I did, in addition to writing something, is I put together pictures of my dad when he came to Seattle. And it took me hours and hours to go through all the pictures that I had. So I'm just going to pass this around. And it's sort of Mom and Dad coming to Seattle from 1981 through about 5 years ago. They would come about every 4 or 5 years. I was a little hard on them this year. I said, you guys haven't been here in about 4 or 5 years. when you come, they didn't come this year, but it's okay. I know they will.
You're here.
I'm here. I said, hey, it's a perfect time since I'm unemployed, you know, so. Anyway, so I'm passing this around. So what I decided to do is actually write a poem, which I have to say, normally I don't wait till the last minute, but I have to say I did write it on the plane. I figured it was the perfect opportunity, and last night kind of put the finishing touches on it. So it doesn't encompass all my memories of my father, but just some specific ones, special ones. So Dad, as we're gathered here together from far and from near to celebrate your upcoming 80th year, coming up with interesting and hopefully unembarrassing memories that you'd like to hear, to toast you and roast you all in good cheer, I think I found a few good ones to tickle the ear. I've known you for all of my 53 years, from cradle to toddler, to teen and to woman. You've always been there if I've ever had fears. As a baby, those memories I do not recall, but I know you'd do anything to stop a close call. As a toddler and child, I sat on your lap as you read to me nightly until I would nap. You tucked me in bed, all cozy and neatness, as you kissed my forehead and said, "Good night, sweetness." One of my favorite memories is all about squirrels. It was through them that you taught me one of your pearls. Each year you told us that if we had been good, that the squirrels would bear gifts from out of the wood. As you spoke to these critters in a foreign tongue, we were wide-eyed and believed you since we were so young. With pure fascination and childhood delight, the next morning we'd collect every filbert in sight. Another great memory, remember?
Yeah. No, it's from the squirrels.
Yeah, actually, this is something my father made up. I mean, I'm just going to diverge a little bit from the poem, but he would literally, once a year, he would, you know, I think because we didn't have Santa, we didn't have Easter egg hunts. I'm not really sure how you made it up, Dad. But he'd go out, he'd basically go outside and say, okay, I'm going to tell the squirrels how good you kids have been, and he'd go, yeah.
He's done for me and what we've done together. And so I'll always remember when like Zadie and Bubby, or just Zadie, took me to like the Brooklyn Zoo, or the Brookfield Zoo, to the Field Museum. Those are just great times, and I'd come out to their house in Homewood and sleep over, and we'd always go in the basement and play ping pong, and he made me the ping pong player I am today. Those times were always a lot of fun, and every year for my birthday, Bubby and Zadie would give me savings bonds, and at the time I realized I didn't think that I was like great at all because I couldn't spend the money on anything. But now that I'm in college, I'm going to be able to use that money to pay for all my expenses and all that stuff. So that's really added up, and that really helps me out. So thank you a lot, Zadie, and happy 80th birthday.
Thanks for being a great man.
Say happy birthday. Good
Yes,
job.
yeah, he is.
You want to do it, Ben?
Okay, go ahead, Zadie. Tyler.
Speech, Tyler, speech.
Oh, my.
Oh, thank you, Tyler.
Go ahead, Ben. Come on.
You've been a great grandson. You and
You are the
Ben.
best grandpa I've ever had.
Oh,
Don't tell your father. Give me a hug, sweetie.
Okay,
Oh,
little dance back.
It's like,
Good job.